is Faison Chima. I am currently a first-year medical student, and if you'd like to hear more about that, check out my first video. So this video is going to be geared towards the MCAT, and that probably triggers PTSD in a lot of medical students and anxiety in a lot of pre-med students. This video will be divided into two segments. The first being what I did for the MCAT, and then secondly, what I would change looking back at how I studied for the MCAT and the results I got. A short disclaimer for anyone watching. Not everyone learns the same, so I think it's important to figure out the way you learn and apply that most effectively. In this video, hopefully I can give you a general idea of what a study plan looks like for the MCAT and tell you about a few resources that you may not have known about that you can utilize in your own study plan and help you score better. So into what I did for the MCAT. I actually missed my cousin's wedding to study for the MCAT and take the actual test. Before I even began studying, I took a few diagnostic tests that I found online. These are typically free, and I think they use them to incentivize you to buy the program for each product. For example, I used the Kaplan diagnostic, I used the Princeton diagnostic, and I used the Next Step diagnostic test to give me an idea of where I was beginning at. These will give you a general idea of where you are and what you need to work on. After the diagnostic exams, I jumped right into content review, and for this I used the Kaplan books. These were highly recommended by people in my school, so I just went with the flow and got these. Books are great because they explain concepts and ideas thoroughly, and they cover more than what the MCAT actually is over. The Kaplan books have great end of chapter summaries, which I often used when I needed to clear up some concepts or refresh my memory about something I had learned a month or two ago. The Kaplan books also have end of chapter questions. These are great for actively learning the concepts that you have just read about. After learning concepts in the Kaplan book and using those summaries, I would go to Khan Academy to learn the same content but in a new way through auditory learning. Sal Khan, the founder of Khan Academy, made learning these concepts very easy, and he explains the concepts thoroughly, and I highly recommend using his resources because they are absolutely free. I spent a total of 4 months studying for the MCAT. I say studying because I spent the first 2.5 months really just reading the Kaplan books and not actively learning anything or learning strategies to improve during the MCAT. After studying for 2.5 months, I took my finals for my junior year, and then I really started studying and doing practice questions for the MCAT. After my finals, I had a regimented routine of how long I was spending studying, when I was taking my practice exams, the minute I was waking up, the minute I was working out, exactly what I was eating, how many calories I was consuming. I did go a bit overboard, but it helped me maintain discipline and keep me motivated during the studying for the MCAT. I may have mentioned before my CAR score was lacking greatly. I'm not a fast reader. I often get confused if I read too fast. Therefore, I use Jack Weston, his resources. I signed up for his emails, and he would send out daily CARS passages and questions about the CARS passage. These were a great help to me because they kept me motivated to keep practicing CARS. After daily daddling for 2.5 months with content review, I jumped into using the AAMC practice exams and the Kaplan practice exams and the Next Step practice exams. So every week leading up to my MCAT exam, I would take 2 or 3 practice exams. After taking the practice exams, I would tally up where I missed the most questions. This helped me go back the following 2 or 3 days and extensively study the questions I missed the most often. And if I really did not get a question, for example, from the AAMC practice exams, r/MCAT has been a great resource. I would just type in the test number, the test practice number, and the question number, and somebody would have an explanation or say the question's faulty. That subreddit also has a 100-page summary of the content I learned in the previous months. As you can imagine, once you haven't refreshed concepts in a few months, you begin to forget them. These summaries helped me keep those concepts fresh in my mind and review them before I took the actual exam. 3 days prior to the MCAT, I didn't do any studying. I just used the Kaplan quick sheets. These These refreshed a lot of the material I'd been learning and kept them fresh in my mind. I would go to a creek near my apartment and just set up a hammock across the creek and mess around with my friend while I was there. And it was a good way to relax and calm down before I took the actual exam. Lastly, I drank lots and lots of coffee. I mean, I'm still addicted to coffee because of that experience. Another thing, it's important to take breaks when you're studying. It is easy to get burnt out and feel like it's not worth it, but you have to remember why you want to be a doctor. We're in this to help people. For me, I took breaks by taking out my dog to the dog park or walking him around. This helped me clear my mind and still feel motivated to keep going. There are a few things I would definitely change looking back at how I studied for the MCAT. Firstly, I would definitely shorten the amount of time I studied for the MCAT. I felt like the things that I learned early on, in the early months of me studying, I began to forget by the time the test came around, so I would shorten that. The thing I would change would be doing less content review, because while I was doing content review, I felt like I was doing great, I was motivated, I was learning, but when it came to taking the practice exams, I ended up not actually learning the material. So I would recommend you taking practice exams consistently, looking at your practice exams, seeing what you missed, and only going over concepts and ideas that you struggle with, and that will increase your score much faster than relearning things that you already know. The thing I would change would be comparing myself to others. I spent a lot of time on r/MCAT and reading different threads about people's experiences for the MCAT, and they were scoring a lot higher. And people in my school were scoring a lot higher than me, and this made me feel unmotivated. Another thing I would change would be I would do more cards practice. I felt like I was doing enough, but when it came time to the actual MCAT, I ended up becoming anxious, and that kind of threw me off for the rest of the exam. The card section still ended up being my lowest section on the MCAT, sadly. The biggest mistake by far that I made was drinking too much coffee, having too much caffeine during the actual exam. Instead of helping me focus during the exam, it actually made me super anxious. I was shaky, just had endorphins running through my body. I thought I was gonna throw up. I'll link everything that I used down below and you can check it out for yourself. Lastly, I just wanna say that the MCAT is not the end of the world, but you have to stay motivated. This is all a process we all have to go through if you want to be doctors. And it's important to remember why we want to be doctors. That helped me push through the anxiety, push through all of the feelings of unpreparedness. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Leave a like, subscribe.